Hi everyone, and welcome to the tutorial. Today I will be demonstrating how to work short rows in your knitting by using the wrap and turn method. Short rows are where instead of working from one end of your knitting to the other, you only work a partial distance, and this means that you create more knitted fabric in some areas than others, which can add dimension and shape to your work and also change the direction of your knitting. So a wrap and turn is exactly as it sounds. You're going to wrap one of your stitches and then turn your work. And this is one of my favorite ways of doing short rows, as it prevents you getting a hole in your work. One place in particular where I like to use short rows by wrapping and turning is in the heel turn of a sock. When you're knitting a sock, you don't want it to just be a straight tube. You want to create an L shape so that it conforms comfortably to what the shape of your foot is. And you can see in this section here, which is the heel turn, I've used wraps and turns to both change the direction of the work so that it begins to turn into this L shape. And it's also created a little extra bulge of fabric, and this will conform nicely to the foot and make it sit comfortably around the heel. So there are two different ways to work a wrap and turn. One is on a knit stitch and the other is on a purl stitch. So we'll see what the knit version looks like first. You'll often see a wrap and turn either written as wrap and turn in your pattern, or it may be abbreviated to W&T. And both of these mean the same thing. You're always doing the same sort of wrap and turn. So pretending that my pattern says something like knit 10 wrap and turn, that means I need to knit 10 stitches. So just counting on my border there, I've got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if it did say knit 10 wrap and turn, that means my wrap and turn is worked over the 11th stitch. So my wrap and turn is going to be worked over this next stitch here. And to do a wrap and turn, we bring our working yarn to the front as if we were going to purl the next stitch. We then slip that stitch also as if we were going to purl it from the left hand to the right hand needle. Then we bring the working yarn to the back, and then we slip this stitch back to the left hand needle without twisting it. And now that stitch has been wrapped. You'll see there's a little leg of yarn traveling around it. Okay, so that stitch has been wrapped, and then the next part is that we turn. So we turn our work around. We're doing this flat. To work a wrap and turn on a purl stitch, we do basically the same thing, but our action is reversed. So we'll say that the next row of my pattern says to purl 8 wrap and turn. So we don't count this stitch that's been wrapped and turned in that count of purling 8. We just work off of what's on our left hand needle. So purl 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then the wrap and turn is worked on the next stitch on the left hand needle. To work a wrap and turn on a purl stitch, we bring our working yarn to the back of our work, slip the next stitch from the left to right hand needle purlwise, bring the working yarn to the front of our work, and then slip that stitch back to the left hand needle. So it's almost the same thing, but our yarn is in a different spot. And the last thing we do once again is turn our work. So you'll hopefully begin to see this section here is where we've been working our wraps and turns. And you might see that it's a little bit taller than the knitting that's adjacent to it. And that's because what we've just done is work 2 extra rows over this section of our knitting, which is added height. So we'll do one more wrap and turn on either side. So let's say the next row says knit 6 wrap and turn. So we knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The wrap and turn will be worked over this next stitch. So once again, just as before, bring my working yarn to the front, slip the next stitch purlwise to the right hand needle, bring the working yarn to the back, slip that stitch back to the left hand needle without twisting it, and turn my work. And then we'll pretend that the 4th row says purl 4 wrap and turn. So purl 1, 2, 3, 4, wrap and turn this next stitch, bring the working yarn to the back, slip the next stitch purlwise, bring the working yarn to the front and slip that stitch back to the left hand needle, and then turn your work. And there we've done 2 sets of short rows. There's one here and one here. They're our knit wrap stitches. And there's one here and one here, and that's our purl wrap stitches. And now we'll see how to pick up those wrap stitches to get rid of the wraps without creating a hole in our knitting, because I now want to resume working from one edge of my knitting to the other. Okay, so just as when we were working the wrap stitches, there's a different method for picking up and knitting your wraps on a knit stitch as there is to on a purl stitch. So we'll now say that my pattern says knit to the end of your work, picking up the wrap stitches and knitting the wraps together with the wrap stitches. So I knit to the next wrap stitch, and it's pretty easy to see if one of your stitches has been wrapped. You can see just here, there's that bit of yarn around the stitch, and it's sort of, you can feel it in your fingers as well, so it's pretty clear to see when you reach a wrap stitch. Okay, so I pick up the wrap and I place it on my left hand needle from front to back. I then knit that wrap and what was the wrap stitch through the back loop. And there I've gotten rid of the wrap. And if I knit the next stitch, you'll see it's virtually invisible where that wrap stitch was worked. So I'm now at my next wrap stitch, and it's the same thing again. Pick up the wrap from front to back, place it on the left hand needle from front to back, and then knit the wrapped stitch and the wrap together through the back loop. And there I've gotten rid of my knitted wrap stitches. Okay, so I finished working across that last row, and now I'm working back across in the purl direction. And just as before, this row of your pattern will say something like purl to the end, picking up the wraps and knitting them together with the wrap stitches. So to pick up a wrap on a purl stitch, you almost do the same thing that we did with a knit stitch, but it's just slightly different. So once again, I want to work until I reach my next wrap stitch. So this is my wrap stitch here. I can tell because it's got an extra strand of yarn around it, and I can feel that there's something at the base of that stitch. To pick up a wrap on a purl stitch, we go the opposite direction. So we pick up the wrap from the back to the front, and we put it on our left hand needle from back to front. But similar to the knit method, or knit version I should say, we purl the wrap and the purl stitch together to get rid of the wrap. And there I've gotten rid of it. I'll do that one more time. Purl to the next wrap stitch, which is here. Pick up the wrap. There it is there. And place it on the left hand needle from back to front. and then purl that wrap and what was the wrap stitched together, and that gets rid of the wrap without creating a hole. So we'll just finish that row off, and there you'll see there's a bulge in my fabric because I created extra rows in this section, and I've done that through using wrap and turns, so there's no hole where I turned around and changed the direction of my work. And that's how you work a wrap and turn. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please feel free to subscribe to the channel, and if you have any questions or comments, do leave them below.